Do y'all usually leave out before announcements? I guess. I don't know. Y'all go ahead. I don't know. Um. Okay, so let's see. This Saturday night is SNL from 5:30 to 8. Gabby, is this Gabby, no. Teens and Twains? Okay, that was my question. Okay, so this Saturday night, and it's Christmas themed too, right? I think I remember her saying that. So if you have a teen or tween, get them here this Saturday night. Also, t-shirts are on sale right now. This Saturday is the Christmas parade. I don't know if y'all have noticed there's like a big trailer in the back there. So last year we just all piled on that and you just throw out candy. And if you want to wear a Christmas top or hat or whatever, nothing's really majorly required to show up. Just represent our church, make look like we're having fun. People be like, who are those happy people? Let's go check out their church. Yeah, or actually have fun. Thank you, Chris. So if you want to do that Saturday, I think Joey said we're leaving here at 9 to go line up. So if you could get here like 8:30 ish to figure out where to get on the float and all that kind of stuff. Operation Christmas is going on. I don't know any updates on that. I think we're still needing people to help with that. Um, we have 3 families left, and okay, and it don't have to be just on you. Like you can partner with like you and 2 or 3 other families all going together to support the one family. Okay, then let's see. Our children's Christmas program is going to be December the 18th. Mark that down. This Sunday at J Crime's home, we're going to have we call it Sister I Need You. If if you've come to any of the events in the past or not, like this is just open to all the women in our church. So if you're here tonight, you are invited. This Sunday at 5 o'clock. Yes, at 5 o'clock. We usually meet and we have like a short Bible devo and just fellowship and hang out. This Sunday though, we're doing our annual ladies dirty Santa, and the dirty Santa gift this year is a blanket. Just blanket that you would like, bring it, and we'll play dirty Santa with that and finger foods. Just hang out and have and still have a devotion. I don't have directions for you, but if you would like to come to that, yeah, it's gonna be in my Rouge. There you go. Okay. So we would love to have all of you ladies come join us. Okay, I think that's most of our upcoming announcements. Anybody have anything that I forgot? Any other announcements that I forgot? Okay, okay, okay. Write this down. Okay. Okay. Do we usually do prayer requests? Why can't I remember what we do on Wednesday? I don't think he does prayer requests, does he? Marley, do we usually do prayer requests? No. Okay. That's all the announcements. If you want to go join Taylor. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna ask one of y'all to open up in prayer while I grab my tablet. So it's kind of a quick little transition. Marley, you want to open us up in prayer for tonight? Oh my goodness. Um, Danielle, she just had surgery today. You need to remember her. Okay, so if y'all are new to New Life, on Wednesday nights we were having like men's and women's separate groups, and so we joined a few months back. So it's been a minute since I've taught, and so when Joey asked me to fill in for him, I was like, oh, I don't know. Plus, I love teaching ladies, but teaching everybody that's a little scary. So anyway, so y'all be with me tonight as I jump back on the horse tonight. But Joey, so when he asked me, because it was kind of a last minute thing with him wanting to go off, go up here to the funeral, and so I was like, I don't have time to prepare that, with Thanksgiving, and then we had a funeral in my family and all that. So anyway, so we have Joey with us here in spirit. He has his notes for me. So y'all still get to hear from Joey. I'm just presenting to y'all. But it's funny how God works because we were talking about, the lesson for tonight. And then as I was reading through my notes, something that I read a week or two ago in my personal Bible time, study time, goes right along with this. And I was like, okay, I can put just a little bit of Katrena in there. So anyways, we're gonna still be in our second Samuel study. We're gonna be in Second Samuel chapter 2. We're gonna start in verse 12, finish out chapter 2, and then we're gonna start on verse 1 in chapter 3, just verse 1. Joey said he felt like we had to finish with verse 1 to tie it all together. And this is a part 1. He will finish up with part 2 next week. So the title of tonight is a kingdom divided. Okay, so we'll do our little saying that we always do. Father, show us what we need to see, tell us what we need to hear, and teach us what we need to learn. Okay, so a church can find itself in an awkward predicament if we continue to always meet up, but we never, as the church, meaning all the different classes, events that we have going on at church, if we all just show up and do our own thing, but we never come back together as a what's my word? Like come back to have fellowship with other, then that can cause problems. And so kind of the theme of tonight, we're going to talk about conflict and the conflict that can happen by you not communicating pretty much is what we're going to talk about with this part of Samuel tonight. So just for example, here at New Life, just all that happens throughout the week, not even just on Sundays. So on Sundays, we have 9 different Sunday school classes that meet up on Sundays. I don't know if y'all were aware of that. That's a lot. And then on Monday, we do the grief share and the divorce class that's coming soon. So just, keep y'all's ears open for that. And, if you know friends that are struggling with a recent divorce, just keep that in mind. Then Tuesdays, they have their staff meetings, the table where they meet to pray, and then celebrate recovery. Like that's 3 things that happen on Tuesday up here. And then, of course, Wednesday, we meet here for Bible study for all ages, and then Sunday. So that's a lot we have going on at our church. And you could imagine maybe some of the confusion if we did not meet back up together like on Wednesdays and Sundays. And, definitely you have to have communication to make all the times and everything flow together. So think about how confusing that would be if you never had that communication, if you never all come together. It'd be like, well, I don't know who those people are, I only know this group. So it's just important to have that open communication and to come back together. And so without fellowship and communication, though, the church will suffer because there are, churches that they do not have the communication, and so they do suffer, and they do not function as a body. It's like if you imagine a body being sectioned, like the arms doing this and the legs are doing this, but they're not all connected. They're not a body. And as a church, you have to be a body. So Christ is like all Christians in the world, like we're all like in one, kingdom per se. He's the head, but the church is the body, so we're all part of the body. Okay, so I have an example. This comes from my devotion that I read. So, okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let me look at this. Okay. So without the eye, like if you think of the actual body, without the eye, the hand doesn't know where it's supposed to touch. And without the ear, the rest of the body may not know when or how to respond. So every member needs to listen to what the other members say. So we're all part of the body. You can't just rely on the eyes or just rely on the feet. So an example that I read in my devotion was talking about, if you, like as a person, our body, if we're walking down a train track, okay, then your eyes are telling the body, we're good. There's nothing coming. Like we can walk on the train track. But then your feet are like, well, I feel some vibration. And the eyes are like, well, I don't see anything. Like we're fine. We're going to keep walking. But then maybe your ears are like, hey, I think I hear a noise. And the eyes like, no, I still don't see anything. We're just going to keep walking. Like you can't ignore parts of the body just because one part thinks that they're correct like that. Or, and as a body, we can't just rely on one part of the body to like dictate it and say like, this is how it is. And so sometimes in churches, a lot of times we get reliant on the preacher to say, this is how it is and that kind of thing. And some churches, the preacher say so is all that matters. And we know that God, says without vision, you will perish. And so you do want to have a preacher that has vision for their congregation, but it's not all on him. And I know here at New Life, Brother Joey, he loves to hear your insight. Now he may say, that's a great idea, like put it into play. And so sometimes you may be a little hesitant to say it to him because that's what he's going to say. But he does love and welcome to hear from you. But the point of me sharing this example is to say that you as a part of the body, I'm like, okay, I really feel like the Lord tied this together for a reason. You're the body, and what you feel like the Lord's saying to you, it matters. Like it helps the rest of us to function because you're a part of the body. So with saying that, I feel like, maybe one of you, maybe you have a vision or like God's put something on your heart. So, just take this as confirmation that, to speak up and, just to share it with somebody. Or it may not be Joey, it may just be somebody else in the body. But we are all put here to function. We all serve in the body. So don't just sit there and think that it's on somebody else and what you think and feel doesn't matter because you are a part of the body. And whenever something happens, I'm going to read y'all this question. Y'all are going to think this is stupid, but there's a point. Okay, so if this were your physical body, what would you do? Okay, so back to the example of the body walking down the train track. Okay, so just recap. You're on the train track and your eyes are saying there's nothing coming, but your ears are like, I think I hear something. Your feet are like, I think I feel some vibration. Okay, so I'm going to give y'all 4 choices. Y'all pick which one y'all think. Okay, so the first choice is, do you get off the train track as soon as possible? The second choice is, do you take a vote of all of the body parts and let the majority rule, like what you should do? The third is, do you try to ignore the conflict and hope it goes away? And then the fourth choice is, do you trust your eyes and just keep on walking? My eye has never let me down before. So obviously, the choice would be get off the train track. We're not taking a vote or any of that. So that was a silly question, but it goes along with that visual of that, you have to be in communication. Like every part matters and we all make up the whole. So because a church is the body of Christ, it functions best when the spiritual leaders and members share with each other what they sense, that is the way, the will of the church. But a church congregation needs to hear the whole counsel of God through its spiritual leaders and members. Then it can proceed with confidence to do God's will. Okay. So another example. Have you ever felt like God was telling you something, but it was scary? Like just you at home, just in general. Like, look, we're not really on the church, the body idea. I just want you to think of a time whenever you felt like maybe the Lord told you, like he wanted you to do this. Just he told you something, but it kind of scared you. And it was scary to the point of where you didn't even want to tell your husband at the time. So I know you ladies are familiar with Lisa Turkhurst. We've done some of her studies. So, for example, she shared that one time she felt like the Lord told her it was time for them to sell their house. And like there was no reason, just like out of the blue, she was like, what? Like, I love my house. Like, why would I sell it? And so she didn't want to talk to her husband about it. And she was just like, Lord, this is you. You're gonna have to talk to him because I feel like this is crazy and like I don't want to talk to him about it. So finally when she mustered up the strength to talk to him, that's what he said. Well, I feel like the Lord's been telling me that too. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Times whenever you feel like the Lord's told you to do something, but it doesn't make sense and it's just scary, and you're like, I don't need to say that to somebody. Okay, so that can even happen here at the church. Another real example that happened here at the church. For years, I taught Sunday school class for the 3 to 6 year olds, and loved it, done it for a long time. But just all of a sudden, not that I didn't enjoy doing it, still, I just felt like that wasn't my passion, or maybe where God had me at. But it didn't really make sense in the moment. So I mean, I just kept doing it. Okay, well, at that time, Joey wanted us to do a marriage class. So he's like, "You've got to come out of there. We need somebody to step up and take your class." And so he presented it on a Sunday morning and was like, "Does anybody feel led to step up and take Katrena's class?" And Carrie Middlebrooks, she like jumped up and she said, "You're not going to believe this." She said, "But I felt like the last few weeks that God has told me that I'm supposed to teach that class." She said, "But how am I supposed to come to you or anybody else and say, hey, the class that the preacher's wife is teaching, I'm supposed to be teaching?" So she said, she was scared, like, this can't be right. So like it made sense. So I'm sharing those two examples with y'all. Regarding what we just said about being the body, and whenever you feel like the Lord's laying something on your heart, don't be afraid to speak up to each other, to bounce ideas off, to come to Joey or whoever, like speak up, like you're having that thought for a reason. And it may not come to fruition, but you never know, if you say something to somebody and that person will be like, "Oh, I feel like God's been telling me the same thing too." So okay, that was a little little extra before we dive into the notes that Joey left us for tonight. So tonight we're gonna, like we said, we're gonna dive into our story, but just a little back part on David. So if y'all remember, it's been like 2 or 3 weeks since we've met on a Wednesday night. Okay, so as we return to David's story, remember he's been anointed king of Judah, but however, the northern kingdom, they did not recognize David as their king, and instead they chose Ishabeth to be their king. So it's important to know that neither of these men, David or Ishabeth, neither one of them were like, ooh, I want to be king, and like forced their way to be king. Like they were put into positions. Also, it's important to know, because you're going to hear these names as we go through these verses, that David and Ishabeth both had like right hand men, like generals that had their back, that, did all their stuff. So just keep this in mind. So David's right hand man, his name was Joab, and Ishabeth's right hand man was named Abner. Okay, and then Abner was also Saul's general. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up chapter 2, 2 Samuel chapter 2. We're going to start verses 10 through 11. Okay, so Ishabeth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and he reigned 2 years. But the house of Judah followed David. And the time that David was king in Hebron over the house of Judah was 7 years and 6 months. Okay, so from these verses, they help us to see that there was division and conflict between the two kingdoms, and this feud lasted for about 7.5 years. Okay, then the rest of the chapter gives us glimpses as to what happened during those 7.5 years of conflict. Okay, so let's go to verses 12 through 17. Abner, the son of Ner, and the servants of Ishabeth, the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim. I don't know. Some of these words I cannot pronounce. I tried looking them up beforehand. To Gibeon. And Joab, the son of Zerah, and the servants of David went out and met them at the pool of Gibeon. And they sat down, then one on one side of the pool and the other on the other side of the pool. And Abner said to Joab, "Let the young men arise and compete before us." And Joab said, "Let them arise." Then they arose and passed over by number, 12 for Benjamin and Ishabeth, the son of Saul, and 12 for the servants of David. And each caught his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side. So they fell down together. Therefore, that place was called some word that I can't pronounce. Looked it up. They didn't even give me a pronouncement. So, which is at Gibeon. And the battle was fierce that day. And Abner and the men of Israel were beaten before the servants of David. So this was a case of winner takes all. Of this fighting situation was supposed to be the winner takes all. So, for example, David and Goliath, whoever came out and fought David and won, they would be the winner. Okay, but this situation, did y'all pick up on what happened? Because I didn't really pick up on it at the first time whenever I read through this. But pretty much the men were fighting and they killed each other. Everybody died. No, none of the 24 survived. They all pretty much grabbed each other by the head of the hair and were stabbing each other, and they all died. Like, for what reason? I know, crazy. So it's like, what was the point? Like, there was no winner. Just crazy. Okay, so verses 18 through 20. In these verses, before we start in verse 18, in these verses, Abner, the general of Ishabeth's army, retreats, and a young man named Ashahel pursues him. Understand that Ashahel is Joab's brother, and he was a very fast runner. Keep that in mind as we read these verses. Okay, 18 through 21. And the three sons of Zariah were there: Joab, Ashahel, and wait, where's the other one? Hmm? Oh, thank you. I tried to pronounce it and I couldn't even see the name because of my notes. I was like, where's the second person's name? Okay. Joab, Abishah, and Ashahel. Now Ahashahel was as swift of foot as a wild gazelle. Okay. Side note right here. The three sons of Zariah. Zariah is the sister of David. And these three sons are just like these like mighty warriors, just like outstanding men. Okay, and this is David's sister's children. She also, just a little side nugget on this woman. She is listed throughout scripture several times, and she's never listed as so and so's wife. Because a lot of times women are in so and so's wife. She's never listed with a man. We don't know why. Her husband's never listed, so it doesn't really matter. But for this study, it's good to see the family connection between the king and the general. So, in other words, the uncle and the nephew. Okay, back to the story. So Abner retreats, and Asahel pursues him. Abner is older and cannot outrun the younger man, so he tells Asahel to stop chasing him. Verses 21 through 22. So Abner said to him, "Turn aside to your right hand or to your left and seize one of the young men and take his spoil." But Asahel would not turn aside from following him. And Abner said again to Asahel, "Turn aside from following me. Why would I strike you to the ground? How then could I lift up my face to your brother Jacob?" So Abner, he could not outrun him because this guy is younger than him, and he's super fast just in general. And Abner wants Asahel to stop running after him, and even tells him to go and like take spoil from somebody, kind of like he's trying to distract him. But this is interesting this is interesting because Abner is the general of the Israel army. So it was considered an act of valor to defeat a general in battle and take his army as a trophy. We are not told this, but we can presume that Asahel wanted Abner as a trophy. So, remember, he's wanting him to quit chasing him. Okay, before we go into our next verses, he's tried to distract him. He's asked him to quit chasing him. Okay, so let's see what happens next. Verse 23. But he refused to turn aside. Therefore, Abner struck him in the stomach with the butt of his spear, so that the spear came out at his back, and he fell there and died where he was. And all who came to the place where Asahel had fallen and died stood still. Okay, so picture this. Both men are running, and they're just literally within arm's reach of Abner. Suddenly, Abner takes the point of his spear. So he takes the point and jabs it into the ground, and Asahel is running so fast, he just runs into the stick because it says the blunt end goes through his body. So it wasn't like he stabbed him. he put his stick in the ground, and the guy's running so fast, he just like impales himself on the stick. Okay, and then well, I don't know if we said that yet. Not get ahead of my notes. Okay, so Abner did not want to hurt Asahel because he knew that it would cause conflict between him and Joab. Remember, Joab is his brother. And so it seems that Joab and Abishai were also running behind their brother, and they came to the place where he was, where they see him dead. And now they want to kill Abner because of what he's done, and to get revenge. So right after it happens, the two brothers run up and see it. Okay, but then Abner calls Joab for the fighting to stop. So verses 25 through 26. And the people of Benjamin gathered themselves together behind Abner and became one group and took their stand on the top of a hill. Then Abner called to Joab, "Shall the sword devour forever? Do you not know that the end will be bitter? How long will it be before you tell your people to turn from the pursuit of their brothers?" So remember, it was Abner who encouraged the fighting in the first place. You can find that back in verse 14. But now he asks for the fighting to stop. Joab stops his men, and then everybody goes home. The author gives a tally of the day's devastation. David lost 19 men, but Ishabeth lost 360 men. And to put it in layman's term, it was a slaughter for King David, for King David's advantage. Okay, so remember what we said at the beginning of the lesson. When different segments of the church begin to operate on their own without fellowship or communication, the rest of the body, without communication with the rest of the body, conflict is sure to come. This concept is only not true just for church, but also, like at work, institutions, or even your marriage. Have you ever had times in your marriage when you're just so busy, like shit's passing in the night, and when there's no communication, there's going to be conflict. Often when there's no communication, like you don't know what's happening. Say your spouse comes home and they just leave, and you're like, well, where'd you go? And they're gone for hours and hours, and then you're upset. And you're like, why didn't you tell me? Like, where did you go? That's just a small example. Like when there's no communication, conflict is just right around the corner. And so without communication, it could be detrimental for homes, businesses. It can just, communication is one thing that's like key for keeping anything together. Church, family, work, like you have to have communication. So in this story, Abner and Joab make the calls, and we hear very little from the king. Asahel's death in the beginning of a major conflict between the two kingdoms, and it all happens because the men do not communicate. The reason for all of this was because there was no communication. Okay, now let's look at just in chapter 3, just verse 1. So in this verse, Abner joins David. So there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David, and David grew stronger and stronger, while the house of Saul became weaker and weaker. And then we will pick up after that verse next week. But so the war raged between these two kingdoms for a long time. And notice the contrast in this verse of what the author says, that the house of David grew stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. Throughout 1st and 2nd Samuel, the contrast has been made between God's king and Israel king. Like that's been made a lot. Israel wanted Saul to be their king so that they could be like other nations. And so this shows us that chasing worldliness does not please God. A desire to be like the world only pulls us away from God. And Saul distracted the people of Israel from worshiping God by doing things his way instead of God's prescribed way. Okay, then also God chose David as king. David was a man who pursued God with all of his heart. He was humble, and he pointed people toward God. So, another reason why, he grew stronger and stronger. The difference in the two. So the message is clear: seek God, and you will grow spiritually stronger and stronger. But if you avoid God and you resist his guidance and you reject his will, you will grow spiritually weaker and weaker. Okay, question. Can you recall where you noticed yourself growing stronger because you intentionally sought God's will in your life? I'll say it again, see if anybody. Can you recall when you noticed yourself growing stronger because you intentionally sought God's will in your life? So, for example, um, maybe you didn't used to have quiet time, and then you started having quiet time, and then before long, you realize, like, at first maybe you're, like, but then all of a sudden, maybe you say no to something that used to tempt you, or it was hard to say no to in the past, and you're like it catches your attention, and you think about it, and you're like, maybe there is something to getting up and having quiet time with God. Like little things like that. Have y'all ever had something like that happen in your life to where all of a sudden you realize that you were spiritually stronger? Jen, you want to share? Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. 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 Mhm. And maybe even because y'all are coming together and putting God first together. So, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. While y'all are thinking if somebody else has any. Oh, Brother Frank, go ahead. Huh? Good. So I'll share one if give y'all a chance if anybody else is thinking of something. So something I've noticed recently, because that's what we're saying, like, you just all of a sudden notice, like, I'm stronger, you're growing stronger and stronger. So I know that I'm probably the only one in the room that's dealt with like fear and worry, doubts, those kind of things. And so, raising teenagers, you have lots of worries. And so, the Bible tells us, not to fear and worry and those kind of things. Like there's a reason he tells us not to do that. And so I started noticing that, as I would get just consumed with those thoughts and those worries and fears, then like it would change my thoughts. I think you mentioned that, your thoughts. And all of a sudden, you can lose like your joy and your peace and you're just fretting and like it just changes like your whole disposition, like your whole day is ruined. But God will help you to see that, and then you have a choice. Do I wanna just keep having a pity party pretty much, like, are you gonna be able to change anything in the moment with you worrying and fearing and fretting and all that? No, like, you're making matters worse. So what can I do to, turn this around? So, praying, talking to God about it, trying to release it to him instead of you trying to worry and figure out how to fix everything. Sometimes, like, just going outside and just walking, like, just getting outside, or listening to a podcast or reading a scripture, just anything like that to dive to get out of that mindset. And y'all, it just makes such a big difference. And so now instead of spending like a whole day of just like and then having to rely on the next morning of waking up and be like, well, maybe tomorrow will be better, of changing it right then in the moment, of getting stronger and stronger in the moment instead of just letting Satan win the whole day. Being strong in the moment, taking your strength back, taking your power back. Like we have the power. We just have to utilize it. And so that's my recent example of something I've done is just, getting sick and tired of Satan being able to do that and, get you down with that and just, you know, claiming Jesus' name and his power in the moment. Okay. Anybody else have anything else that came to mind that you want to share? Okay. All right. So if not, next week will be in chapter 3. Go back, make sure I'm doing the right thing. Right. Yes, in chapter 3. And that will be a kingdom divided part 2. And Joey did allude that this was kind of like just the building up to next week. So I assume next week is going to be like, real grand. So y'all might want to go ahead and read ahead of time. It sounds like it's going to be pretty action packed next week. um, so I know we finished up just a few minutes early tonight. If anybody else has anything on their heart they want to share, if not, we can close out and then y'all just have a few minutes to visit until our kiddos are done in the back. Go ahead, Cuddy. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Uh-huh. Awesome. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, Katie. Yes. Yeah. Yes. A good praise report. Okay, we will close out. Chris, you want to close us out in prayer? Amen.
We sincerely want to thank you for joining us today, and we hope that this message has challenged you and impressed you. We never want to leave you in a message without challenging you to do something better for yourself and for your community and for Jesus Christ. We hope that you are impressed to take Jesus at His word, and if you have made a decision to follow Jesus, we would like to hear from you. We want to know about it. Would you be willing to contact us and look at our website, look at our email, and send us a message and let us know your story? We want to share your story with the rest of the family of New Life Church. Remember, making Jesus Lord of your life is the absolute greatest decision that you will ever make. So until we meet again, come back right here as we exalt Jesus, equip the believer, and evangelize our world.